So if you've got hinges left on your door, you're probably going to want to take those off because those will rust easily. Mark your halfway point, so put it on the halfway point. Stretch that bad boy out. Get it on the little tick mark you made on the end here. And then pluck it once. So now we've cut it down the middle. You just use the skill saw to follow the line. That's the skill saw. Then we're gonna sand it down all along the edge here. All right, next thing, you're gonna measure the board that's gonna be used for the end. Again, this is the piece that's gonna be used on the end here. That's gonna determine the height of our whole thing. So here you can see you've got 11 1/8. All right, now for the placement of the legs. Again, I still haven't screwed this down. That's the second I'm gonna screw it down. I'm just putting everything there. You really have some options here. For this one, I'm actually gonna just make it flush at the top. But anyway, the way that you of course figure out how to cut this one is so that the amount that's protruding, you're gonna measure up the amount you got here. It's like 10 5/8, and then you're gonna cut this one to be 10 5/8. All right, next up, drill your pilot holes, probably at least one there, 1, 2, 3 to 4 along your crossbar here. All right, we got the pilot holes, and of course the pilot holes are important, not just because it's a pain in the butt to get a screw in without a pilot hole, but also, most importantly, so you don't split the wood. The cheaper the wood, the more important the pilot hole is. The drill bit you use should be just smaller than the screw that you're using. So you can line it up like that. Now we're just going to drill these straight into the pilot holes that we made. Again, 11 inches here. Make sure your saw blade's right on it. Look at it from a couple different angles. And you're better, if you're worried, you're better to be a little longer than a little shorter, because obviously then you can chop it down further. There, and you're gonna want to go in with your pilot hole, actually not right in the middle here. You're gonna wanna go pretty close to either the top or the bottom of this edge, because you're gonna wanna put one screw in from the front and one screw in from the back, and you obviously need to leave room for both screws. All right, so what you missed is I just went ahead and screwed that on. Now you're gonna flip this over, as you've seen. I have it flipped over. I'm gonna want to measure what your edge is here. It's about an 1.5 inches, a little bit less. And then from the top of it to the edge, see, is about 3 inches. So between 1.5 inches and 3 inches, say about 2¼ inches up is where you're gonna want to put your pilot holes all along here. Okay, so now like I said, we're gonna have screws from both sides. Pilot holes always. I've already marked them off 2¼ inches up on all sides. It might be different for yours depending on where you put your cross one, but you want it about in the middle of that. So I measured, it's about 2¼ So I've already got some of these started. You see, that's where those are. I also then I'm going to put one through on the legs. Well, 2 on that leg, 1 on this leg, because it's only got a little bit to get to. This one on this leg, remember that you don't have a lot of space to work with, so hopefully you put the one coming in on the other side towards the top and this one towards the bottom. Real careful here because you're working at the end of the wood. You don't want to split your leg. So here, I'll just show you me doing one. I've got them all marked with pencil. Again, as with everything, measure twice, drill or cut once. You also want to make sure your drill is at a right angle from all directions. You don't have to really measure that, but just pay attention to it, because if you go in sideways or diagonal, you'll miss your mark on the other side. Remember, measure twice, cut once. So I'm going to measure this off, mark the middle, and measure where I marked, make sure that it was marked at halfway point, and then I'm going to chop these up, and then the other board's up. So you see I got these lined up here. Actually, remember how they were just over 4 feet, so I marked it at 2 feet, which means I'm going to put those 2 feet are here. And line that 2 feet up right on the left edge of that saw blade there, and then that saw blade thickness will take off the 1/16 inch difference between the two sides. Again, not that they had to be exact, but that's what we're gonna do. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut out the piece of the board. This is gonna be the end of the bed. This piece right here. And the length of that should be pretty much exactly the length of these boards. You know, I said that these ones that'll be the bottom, these can lay in there loosely. So the important thing is that this be about the length of them, but no shorter, right? Because how long or short this is going to determine how wide your bed is, and your bed obviously can't be more narrow than the boards you're going to be laying down in it. Okay, so last step, we've got our boards cut. They're just going to lay in here loosely. You can see this is just laid in here loosely. Got our end boards cut. Those right now are still laying there loosely. What we're gonna do is we're going to drill straight through 1, 2 screws. Make sure to do your pilot holes and then a screw in. You have to use a shorter screw here because it's less thick here. So I'm also gonna lay in here one more of the leg pieces. That will be screwed straight down here, and then that'll come in contact with the dirt. So you don't want to use pressurized for that. And you just lay these there next to it all the way across. You're gonna lay them out. And then you don't need to screw down these boards. These can lay loosely, and you should leave a little space in between them because you want drainage for your soil. So a little gap like that is just fine. And that'll also give you some wiggle room to make up if you don't have quite the right, if they don't all, one after another, add up to the exact space there. That's fine because you've got wiggle room to leave space for drainage. Again, no need to screw down these, but you do, of course, since this is part of the structure, want to screw at least once through there, and once through there, once through there, once through there, once there, once there, once there, once there. Always doing your pilot holes. And then once you're done with that, you're pretty much done. So we've been using this whole time these 2.5 inch screws actually. These are now, because we don't have as thick of a thing to go through, if I put this through, it would come out the other end. So I'm using a shorter screw. If I had a 2 inch, I'd probably use that, but I have a 1/5/8 inch. This is the same top. I've drilled my pilot holes already. I actually got one screw in there already. Off camera, behind the scenes. And there you go, and we're just gonna do that all the way around. All right, so we are all done. We have it placed where we want it. Nice and stable. You can see things not moving anywhere, right? Like I said earlier in an earlier post, this wood in the middle of the door is gonna be your weakest point and most likely to rot first. So to protect it a little bit, I am going to add a rail on top. You can use any little piece of wood. You'll see on the other one, I used that 1x1 that I had left over. I stained it so it'd be more water resistant. This one I'm just gonna use a little piece of trim that I have sitting around the garage. I'm not gonna finish that off on this video, but you can see what you do. You just measure it out, chop it off, just drill straight down on the 2 ends, obviously not in the middle because there's not enough wood in the middle of that door. And then you will have it. Do the same thing on both ends. All right, and this is the finished product. The last thing I did was stain 2 little strips here to cover the top of that thin mid part of the door so that hopefully it stays intact longer. Threw some rocks, you can see that, some rocks on the bottom. And then mix some topsoil and garden soil. You can do your own soil mix. Everybody's got opinions and probably more knowledge than me on that, but here we are. I now have 2 beautiful garden beds made from 2 old doors that were just taking up space in the basement.